But there was no flaw to be found. It was Thomas. Or maybe his twin. Not that he had had a twin. Even if he did, the odds of him and his twin brother both becoming vampires were astronomical. And the man standing before him was definitely a vampire. Vlad could smell it on him. It smelled like blood, and wisdom, and youth, all rolled together. There was nothing else like it in the world. Vlad's vision blurred with tears, his heart filling with impossible doubt. This couldn't be his father. His father was dead. He knew. He'd seen the charred corpse, smelled death in the room. Thomas Todd was dead. And standing right in front of him. Doubtfully, almost angrily, he croaked, "Dad?" Thomas nodded, his mouth shrugging, sorrow and pain and loss lurking in his eyes. When he spoke, it removed only a portion of Vlad's doubt. "Yes, son." Vlad turned at the shuffling noise behind him. Joss, bleeding, broken, was scrambling for the stake, struggling to stand. For a moment, Vlad had all but forgotten him, had all but forgotten that he was about to kill Joss, his friend, his betrayer. Joss stumbled, collapsing on the ground. Vlad flicked his eyes between Joss and his father, but remained motionless, in complete, captured awe of the man before him. "Are you?" Vlad gulped, the taste of Dorian's blood still on his tongue, the memory of Dorian's madness still racing through his thoughts. Dorian had been brilliant, but insane. Had Vlad inherited some of that insanity by drinking his blood? Had his worst fears been realized? He'd known that doing as Dorian had asked and drinking from him would be a terrible risk, but he'd done it anyway. Otis had drank from Dorian's son, Adrian, and now had telekinetic powers, so it's not like the warning of bizarre consequences hadn't been there in front of him the entire time. And yet, he went through with it. Just before Dorian died, Vlad had drank his blood. And maybe now he was crazy. Maybe now there was no going back at all. He took a deep breath and forced the words from his lips, already knowing that the answer to his question was no. It had to be. Because he was like Dorian now. He was crazy. Completely, utterly insane. Not to mention hallucinating. "Are you real?" The vision of his father merely smiled. Thomas stood in silence. A memory. Something looming over Vlad's every thought, every nightmare, every action. His father. His dead father. Here. Now. Vlad closed his eyes briefly, haunted by the memory of the fire that took his parents, wondering if it was to be his punishment to see visions of his father now. Growing more and more certain that feeding from Dorian had poisoned his mind, Vlad sighed and opened his eyes again. The man that looked like his father, his crazy vision, whatever it was gone. Only he and Joss and Dorian's corpse remained in the clearing. Vlad spun around, searching the surrounding area, but saw no one. Not even so much as a broken twig indicating movement. His heart sank. Crazy or not, it had been nice to see his father's smiling face again. Then there was a noise. Vlad whipped around to see Henry racing into the clearing, his face ghostly pale. "Vlad, are you okay? I had this horrible feeling like you needed me." And Vlad did need him. He'd just beaten Joss within an inch of his life, and had just witnessed the impossible. He may have just